I sat glumly, pulling out the mandatory pink book I had been issued at the start of summer camp. A diary of all things. Back then, I thought it was silly, but today, it felt like the only way I could record what was about to happen. My hands trembled as I turned the first page. Tears welled up, tracing paths down my cheeks until I was outright sobbing. I knew this was going to be a long, emotional day. Background: how I got here. Before I explain, let me give you some background. My father, Ralph Weldon, is the CEO of Weldon Industries and the inventor of something called the MediPro 2 system. Don't ask me the details, but every pediatrician's office has one, with a technician trained to use it. Dad's a genius. My mom? She's sweet and caring, but a little scatterbrained. Her name is Bobby Sue. She always tried her best, even if mistakes seemed to follow her. And then there's my brother Robert, or Bobby. He's 4 years older, takes after Mom, and unfortunately has made it his life's mission to make me miserable. The year is 2062. Technology has changed. The old gasoline cars are relics, and summers are different too. Long ago, President Schwarzenegger created government-sponsored camps to keep kids fit and out of trouble, while teachers enjoyed their long break. These camps were staffed by overworked college students paying off loans and bureaucrats padding their pensions. That's where I was now, stuck with my pink diary and too many secrets. A history of sibling torment. Bobby was always Mom's favorite. He was rough and tumble, always up for basketball or football. I was more like Dad. We played chess, solved puzzles, and watched science fiction together. Bobby grew tall and broad-shouldered with a crew cut. I was smaller, blonde, and kept my hair long, something he never stopped mocking. The trouble really started years ago when Mom made a mistake filling out school registration forms. Where it asked for first name and middle initial, she accidentally typed Shauna. I was Shauna Weldon, but in the database, suddenly I became Shauna Weldon. From that day on, government forms, school emails, and even official mail started arriving with Shauna printed on them. Dad tried to fix it, but once a name gets stuck in the system, it's almost impossible to erase. Bobby thought this was the funniest thing in the world. He teased me endlessly, calling me his little sister in front of his friends. He even signed me up for girls' online newsletters under the name Shauna. My parents shrugged it off as another computer glitch, but for me, it was humiliating. The worst moment? When a welcome kit meant for young girls arrived at our house, addressed to Shauna Weldon. Bobby laughed for weeks. No one else believed me when I said it was all his doing. I suffered in silence, promising myself that one day, somehow I'd get even. Mischief afoot. It all started back in April. Bobby and his friends were huddled around their brand new PlayStation 12, blasting away at some mindless game. But when they got bored, they turned their attention to something far more dangerous: Mom and Dad's email. They hacked in, found the mandatory summer camp enrollment forms, and sent them off with their own corrections. Mom never noticed. Dad assumed Mom had handled it, and by the time the official camp assignments arrived in the mail, the damage was already done. Robert was going to Camp Tamarack. And me? I was headed to Camp Shangri-La. The catch? That cursed typo on my name, Shauna, was back again. Dad made some calls and thought he had sorted it out, but the truth was, Bobby and his friends had intercepted the fix and made sure it wasn't fixed at all. They convinced Mom and Dad that we were going to different camps simply because of our age difference. I stayed out of it, buried in my books, completely unaware of the nightmare about to unfold. Parents were supposed to protect their children, right? I honestly thought I was safe. Summer was coming fast, and for once, I was excited. A whole season away from Bobby? That sounded like paradise. At breakfast the morning camp started. Bobby wore a smug grin that I chose to ignore as I spooned down my cereal. Dad gave us both big hugs before heading off to work, and I found myself blinking back tears as I waved goodbye. I'd miss him most of all. Soon Bobby's transport car arrived. Mom walked him down, and I didn't even watch him leave. When my car came, I hugged Mom, climbed in, and waved back, but she had already turned away. What a family, I thought bitterly, as the car accelerated down the track. After about 30 minutes, the car slowed at a station. I thumbprinted into the reader and used my e-pad to grab directions to the next connection. 10 minutes later, I was on another car, then another, dozing off during the long ride. When I woke up, I wasn't alone. The car was packed all girls. The train slowed again, finally coming to a stop. One by one, the girls filed out until I was the last one left. An adult leaned in the doorway with a cheery smile. "Come on, sleepyhead. Last stop. All off for Camp Shangri-La." My stomach dropped. Suddenly, Bobby's smug smile at breakfast made perfect sense. I had been tricked. Big time. Stepping into the sunlight, I felt dizzy. The air was fresh and clean, but I could barely breathe. The woman by the door closed the transport behind me and introduced herself warmly. "I'm Tracy," she said, slipping an arm around my shoulder as though we were old friends. "You're going to love it here. Camp Shangri-La is going to be the best summer of your life." I couldn't reply. My mind was racing too fast for my lips to keep up. Welcome to Camp Shangri-La. I was numb. Somehow, I'd been shipped off to a girls' camp. They took me straight to a building where every camper received a uniform. Nobody here knew who I really was, and back home, nobody knew what kind of situation I was stuck in. The friendly woman guiding me smiled kindly. "Here you go, dear, just follow the directions. I'll be back in a few minutes." She closed the door, leaving me alone with a glowing monitor. "Please insert thumb in reader," the screen instructed. I pressed my thumb to the pad. "Hello, Shauna. Welcome to Camp Shangri-La. Please remove all clothing and place them in chute A. Your items will be cleaned and returned at the end of camp." Still in a fog, I obeyed the instructions. When I finished, a second message appeared. "Please stand in the pink circle with arms extended." I did. Lights flickered, and moments later, a set of neatly folded uniforms slid down a chute, complete with pink slippers and sneakers. "Please get dressed and report to the nurse's office for check-in," the monitor chimed. I pulled on the uniform, but when it came to the rest, I hesitated. My face burned with embarrassment. Surely this wasn't necessary. I tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. "Failure to comply will be reported to camp authorities," the monitor warned. My heart pounded. Defeated, I finished dressing. The system chimed again. "Compliance noted." "Thank you, Shauna. Enjoy your stay at Camp Shangri-La." When I stepped outside, Tracy was waiting with a satisfied smile. "See? That wasn't so bad. Now, let's get you checked in at the nurse's office." The infirmary was brand new, far too large for such a small camp. Tracy introduced me to the nurse, Susan, who looked more like someone counting the days until her next vacation than a health professional. She tapped at her terminal, had me press my thumb to the scanner, and nodded. "Baseline reading first," she said, leading me into another room. That's when I froze. There it was, the MediPro 3. My father's invention, the upgraded model he'd been working on for years. He'd only ever shown me a picture of the prototype, but here it was, towering and humming with hidden power. Before I could react, Susan motioned me onto the examination bed. "Just lie still. This will only take a moment." The hum grew louder as the machine came to life. Lights flickered, panels slid into place, and mirrors angled toward me. I tried to stay calm, but exhaustion took over, and before I knew it, I drifted into sleep. When I woke, Susan was at my side, removing straps and checking a readout. She frowned slightly, placing a small bandage on my arm. "We'll keep you here overnight. The MediPro compensated for something unusual in your system. Nothing to panic about, we just need to monitor you." She pulled a blanket over me. "Rest now. We'll talk more in the morning." For the first time in what felt like forever, I slept soundly, without dreams. How embarrassing. I awoke late in the morning, groggy but finally clear-headed. My body still felt strange after the MediPro session, like it had been quietly rearranged while I slept. Nurse Susan entered with a clipboard in hand. "Good morning, Shauna. You'll be happy to know the MediPro isolated the substances in your system and adjusted your treatment. You slept through most of it. The scan also corrected a few minor issues. Things we'll review with the doctor next week." I nodded nervously, still trying to make sense of her words. What had the machine done to me exactly? "Now," she continued briskly, "camp regulations require strict standards. Until we're sure everything is stable, you'll have some extra items added to your uniform. Stay consistent, and the restriction will be lifted in a few days. My face burned with embarrassment. I wanted to argue, but I had no strength left. Susan pointed toward the showers. Clean up, do your hair, use the conditioner. A fresh uniform will be waiting. Your cabin mates will collect you for lunch. I shut the bathroom door and let the hot water pour over me, trying to wash away the humiliation. I spotted more bandages along my body, evidence of things the MediPro had quietly done while I was unconscious. My mind spun with questions, but I had no answers. When I finished, I dried off with the fluffy pink towel hanging by the sink. My new uniform lay neatly folded, pink sneakers, shorts, shirt, and yes, the rest of it too. I groaned. This was beyond embarrassing. Need a hand, dear? Susan's voice called sweetly through the door. No, I squeaked, mortified. I can manage. After fumbling my way into the uniform, I thought I was done until Susan suddenly swept into the room. Hold still, she said with a practiced air. With a few quick adjustments, she smoothed everything into place, leaving me looking far more convincingly feminine than I could ever manage on my own. There, she said, tugging my shirt down and stepping back. No one will notice a thing. You'll blend in perfectly. I turned toward the mirror, my heart pounding. The reflection staring back was that of a pretty, smooth-faced girl with long hair framing her features, her shape carefully patted and disguised to fit in with the rest of the campers. The sight hit me like a tidal wave. The room spun, my knees buckled, and the world went black. Tests and more tests. I wasn't sure how long I'd been out, but faint voices drifted in and out like echoes. The nurse was speaking to someone, maybe the camp doctor, her words muffled, but just clear enough for me to catch phrases. Fullskin found a number of things. Necessary correction. 70 days of treatment. By the end of the summer, she'll be a new person. My heart pounded. A new person? What did that even mean? Shauna feels anxious and afraid. Is there something I can give her? The voices faded as I slipped into sleep again. The next thing I knew, the hum of the MediPro returned. Once again, I was slid inside its chamber. Lights flickered, and I drifted into a dreamlike haze, my body feeling light and detached. When I awoke again, I wasn't in the infirmary anymore. I was in a new cabin, Butterfly 7, lying in a soft bunk while the quiet breathing of another camper filled the room. How did I get here? I sat up carefully, piecing together what little I remembered. My arm ached faintly, there was a tenderness in my leg, and a fog still clung to my thoughts. Yet, oddly, I no longer cared as much. The constant weight of fear and anxiety had lifted, leaving me strangely calm. I looked down at myself. My nightshirt was new, my reflection in the dresser mirror softer than I remembered, my hair falling across my shoulders. I swallowed hard. This wasn't how camp was supposed to go. But as I stared at the folded stack of belongings neatly arranged on my dresser, I realized something unsettling. I wasn't fighting anymore. I wasn't even resisting. A small, dangerous voice inside whispered, maybe this is here meant to be.